еще играет. Schubert's and Piaget's opus. My name is Timmy Ryu and I'm playing the piano grade 8. First I'm going to play Judo from Gubaev, then Les Souffles from Rameau, then Impromptu in A flat, opus 142 number 2 from Schubert, and Piaget opus 41 from Chopin.
Sergei Rachmaninov ancora oggi è considerato, se non il più grande, comunque tra i più grandi virtuosi del pianoforte di tutti i tempi. Purtroppo di Sergei Rachmaninov non abbiamo tante registrazioni, nonostante che in quel periodo i pianisti fossero registrati e quindi ci fossero pervenute comunque dischi, LP o 78 giri o varie registrazioni di vario tipo che ne attestassero la loro forza, la loro capacità virtuosistica espressiva. Però delle poche cose che abbiamo, compresi i suoi grandi concerti eseguiti da lui al pianoforte, noi possiamo veramente confermare che Rachmaninov ancora oggi è considerato, e può essere considerato, uno dei grandi artisti e virtuosi della tastiera. Il colmo è che forse Rachmaninov non voleva essere un virtuoso della tastiera. Pensate che quando era ragazzo non aveva neanche tanta voglia di studiare il pianoforte, viveva con la madre vicino a San Pietroburgo e e la madre era molto preoccupata di questo ragazzo che non aveva tanta voglia di applicarsi al pianoforte. Allora parla con un suo parente, con Cilotti, un grande maestro a Mosca, e combina che Sergei vada a vivere a Mosca presso un maestro dal nome minaccioso, Zverev. Questo maestro lo faceva vivere in casa sua insieme a un altro studente e lo trattava come, oggi questa trasmissione, il collegio, no? Lo trattava come in collegio, cioè sveglia a 8 ore al mattino, lavarsi, fare colazione, cominciare a studiare, suddividere il lavoro dello studio in un certo modo, poi insomma a fine settimana esecuzione davanti a degli amici musicisti. Amici musicisti, non amici musicisti e basta, ma amici importanti. E lì è in casa di Zverev che Rachmaninov conosce Piotr Ilyich Tchaikovsky, che era considerato il più grande compositore russo, che gli dà la possibilità anche di scrivere una prima composizione, che è una trascrizione per pianoforte a 4 mani di un balletto, La Bella Addormentata, un balletto che Tchaikovsky aveva composto. E quando si diplomerà Rachmaninov nel 1892, si diplomerà sapendo di essere un grande compositore, un potenziale grande compositore, un potenziale grande direttore d'orchestra e, perché no, un potenziale grande virtuoso. Diverse sciagure si abbattono su di lui, al punto tale che lo fanno andare in depressione. Dalla depressione uscirà proprio all'inizio del XX secolo e scriverà il suo secondo concerto dedicandolo all'analista che l'aveva avuto in cura, il professor Dahl. Prima però di uscire dal conservatorio, si diplomò nel 1892, si mise a scrivere dei pezzi di fantasia. Tra questi pezzi il preludio in do diesis minore, detto Le campane di Mosca. Ecco, pensate, quando Rachmaninov divenne famoso come pianista e cominciò a essere strapagato come pianista, in tutta Europa, quando veniva in tournée, il pubblico pretendeva l'esecuzione di questo preludio, che per il pubblico era la cosa più grande scritta da Rachmaninov. Questo è un po' il colmo. Abbiamo dovuto aspettare poi gli anni 60, quando Sergio Fiorentino, morto Rachmaninov negli anni 50, decise di eseguire tutto Rachmaninov per pianoforte, credo in 5 o in 6 concerti, adesso questo non lo ricordo precisamente, però Fiorentino eseguì tutto, quindi le 2 sonate, eseguì i momenti musicali, opera 16 che oggi sono famosissimi, sono stati eseguiti per la prima volta da Sergio Fiorentino in Italia, perché purtroppo anche il pubblico italiano, il pubblico dei grandi concerti, come quelli del quartetto per esempio, negli anni 40 a Milano, alla città del quartetto, non voleva sentire Rachmaninov che suonava la sua musica, voleva sentire Rachmaninov che suonava Chopin, Schumann, Liszt, eccetera, eccetera, e il preludio in do diesis, qualche volta anche l'elegia, sempre tratta dalla stessa raccolta di pezzi per fantasia, opera 3. Ecco, diciamo che questo è il preludio più semplice scritto da Rachmaninov, il più, come si può dire, il più giovane di tutti i suoi preludi, anche dal punto di vista armonico. Non è assolutamente difficile, è un pezzo di grande effetto perché in qualche modo riproduce queste campane straordinarie di Mosca e ha un'atmosfera molto cupa. È chiaro che quando una persona va in depressione perché è abbastanza fragile dal punto di vista emotivo e quindi dal punto di vista della sua stessa vita. Rachmaninov nel 1893 si vede solo perché muore Tchaikovsky, che era il suo mentore, Zverev lo caccia perché voleva che lui facesse solo il pianista e non il compositore o il direttore d'orchestra, avrebbe voluto sposarsi con la cugina, non arrivava l'annullamento dalla Sacra Rota, un matrimonio precedente della cugina per poterla sposare, insomma si era visto crollare su di sé un po' tutto, anche il suo stesso futuro, e non si sapeva decidere su che cosa fare di queste 3 attività. E nella vita poi finì, per tanti motivi, a continuare a fare il pianista, e a scrivere sempre di meno musica, perché c'è stato un periodo in cui ha scritto veramente pochissimo, perché i concerti gli davano tanti soldi e con i concerti poteva, diciamo, avere un tenore di vita agiato che in qualche modo gli faceva piacere, anche perché gli faceva piacere perché pensate, esce dalla depressione nei primi del Novecento, diventa famoso con i suoi concerti in tutto il mondo e nel 17 cosa succede? La rivoluzione in Russia, la rivoluzione di ottobre, esattamente 100 anni fa, e in quella rivoluzione la famiglia di Rachmaninov, Sergei Rachmaninov con le figlie e la moglie, deve scappare da San Pietroburgo e rifugiarsi in Scandinavia. Da lì l'anno dopo se ne andrà in America, dove era diventato famoso, vivrà a Beverly Hills, in una bellissima casa dove tutto era russo in casa, gli oggetti, gli amici che andavano a trovarlo, e i servitori, eccetera. Però questo non bastava, ha vissuto esule come Chopin quasi tutta la vita, senza poter tornare in Russia. Ecco perché la sua musica è sempre comunque intrisa di nostalgia e di profonda tristezza.
welcome to today's talk, Thursday the 23rd of December. Now we've got some pretty interesting data on the spread of Omicron and the symptoms and the risk of hospitalisations with Omicron today. Just before we do that, we're keeping an eye on some critical information, and we're watching this on a daily basis. Well, I watch 2 or 3 times a day every time there's an update. So this is South Africa. So we see there's 9,300 people currently in hospital in South Africa with a positive diagnosis of Omicron, only a little bit higher than the UK, about 2,000 higher than the UK, with a similar population. So we see that the hospitals in South Africa are not being flooded with Omicron patients. They are simply not, and we're more than 4 weeks into this now. Patients on oxygen in all of South Africa for a population of 60 million, 1,329. Altogether, patients on oxygen in the whole country, in hospital, who have got a positive SARS coronavirus 2 diagnosis, which, as we know, in South Africa is 98% Omicron. So we are not seeing a dire situation develop in South Africa. We're just not. And then one more from this that we're keeping an eye on. This is the one from the UK. We will check. This could have been updated actually by the time we go off this recording. It's updated about now. But hospitalisations with Omicron in the UK currently, that's the number there, 195 out of 7,500. So 7,500 patients in hospital with SARS coronavirus 2, 195 with confirmed Omicron, 18 deaths. We don't know whether these deaths are with or from. That is literally all we know about it at the moment. Now let's go on and look at some of the COVID symptom tracker information now. This is always fascinating to follow. This is more or less live time. Zoe update. This was actually yesterday's update. Actually, just to prove it's live time, let's just have a quick look at today's. This is today's. So we see over 1.5 million people symptomatic in the UK at the moment. Number of new cases are all-time high, 151,000. And we can see that the dots are further apart, aren't they? There's a sharp increase. So a very sharp increase to a prevalence of, on the 23rd, which is today, the prevalence figure there is 1,549, so 1.5 million. Always good to get that up to date, bang up to date, basically lifetime data. And of course, first thing I do in the morning, I put my mobile phone on and I update it. Now, these are the references for Zoe application. So 144,000 new daily symptomatic COVID cases in the UK, up to the average up to yesterday. It's a lot. In people who've had at least 2 doses of vaccines, there was 56,000 new daily symptomatic cases. So we are seeing a lot of people who've had 2 or 3 doses of vaccine who are, emphatically, are getting symptomatic COVID-19, believed to be mostly Omicron variant. This is breaking through big time into symptomatic infection. The people that are vaccinated, of course, typically they have a milder illness, they have less symptoms, and they're much less likely to be hospitalised. But they're still getting a lot of symptomatic disease. I'm sure a lot are getting asymptomatic disease, but of course COVID symptom tracker study by definition doesn't pick those up. So 70% of cases in England now are Omicron. We've moved over. The R value is currently 1.2, so we're increasing. The R value in London, which is leading the way, is 1.5. Now let's just have a look at some Zoe data now. I think we can see some of that. So these are the new symptomatic cases in the United Kingdom on the 20th of December. These are in doubly vaccinated people, so we can see there's a lot of symptomatic infection, and we can see that that's gone up dramatically with the Omicron. So we can see that the symptomatic infections have gone up dramatically in the vaccinated during this time of Omicron. So pretty clear correlation there. This is all people, including a lot who are unvaccinated. So that's new cases in the UK. This one is regional, and the big thing to notice here is this is the London data. So symptomatic cases have shot up in London, and there is no question that where London is leading, the rest of the country is going to follow. This is the pattern that we've predicted for some time now. New cases in the UK on the 19th of December, as we said, the R value is 1.2, so a sharp rise in new daily cases up to, well, as we've said, about 140,000. And that's just up to the 19th of December. Incidence by age group, so the 18 to 35s, particularly in London here, are the highest growth in number of cases. The more at-risk groups still, thankfully, much lower. Let's look at some of our usual orientation graphics. The new daily confirmed COVID-19 cases per million, and we see that Japan is still doing best of all in the world. Australia, they are going up due to Omicron spreading, particularly in New South Wales, as we said. Canada going up. United States, the Omicron increase in cases has definitely started. France, Ireland likewise. United Kingdom and Gibraltar. Now I put Gibraltar on here because, now the reason I put Gibraltar on there is, as we know, Gibraltar is one of the most highly vaccinated populations in the world. Relatively small population, but the vaccination uptake's about 140% from what I remember. And yet we're still seeing all these breakthrough symptomatic infections in Gibraltar. These are breaking through the Omicron infections. The symptomatic infections are breaking through, giving symptomatic infection. Denmark still high. Denmark's actually reached its genomic sequencing capacity. But of course, all these people in Gibraltar that are getting these infections, they're being protected largely from hospitalisation, from severe illness, but they're getting a massive boost. This is a natural immune boost that they're getting from their Omicron exposure. So you could argue that this is potentially, could turn out to be the best thing that's ever happened. So we'll see, but that's looking fairly promising. Now going on, looking at some more orientation. Number of patients in hospital per million with COVID-19, so Canada, Denmark. See, Denmark with high case detection, but not so high hospitalisation. Ireland, the United Kingdom going up slightly, we know. United States has remained high. This is mostly due to Delta in the United States still, but some Omicron effect coming through in France. Estimates of the R value. Now this line here is 1. So anything that below this, the cases are decreasing. Anything above this, they are increasing. So we see that absolutely everywhere has got an R value of above 1. So Ireland, United States, France, Japan, even Japan, although it's not showing yet. Denmark, Canada, United Kingdom and Australia especially. And we see that the R value in Australia there is about, what, 1.5, 1.6 even. So cases increasing in those, all of those areas. New daily confirmed COVID-19 cases per million, looking at the South Africa data here, so we see that the cases in South Africa appear to be falling off. So we see there that the cases in South Africa appear to be quite low and appear to be dropping off compared to the United States and the United Kingdom. Welcome. Doubly vaccinated people, so and that's just up to the 19th of December. Incidence by age group, so the 18 to 35s, particularly in London here, are the highest growth in number of cases. The more at-risk groups still, thankfully, much lower. The vaccination uptake's about 140% from what I remember. And yet we're still seeing all these breakthrough symptomatic infections in Gibraltar. These are breaking through the Omicron infections. The symptomatic infections are breaking through. Best thing that's ever happened. So we'll see, but the case, because there's not that much testing going on now in South Africa. So the real numbers are probably still climbing in South Africa. That looks like the most likely scenario. And then we look at weekly new hospital admissions for COVID-19 per million. In terms of admissions, yes, it is going up in South Africa, but as we saw, just over 9,000 for a population of 60 million, not yet at the Delta level seeing in the United States. New daily confirmed deaths, and we see South Africa. Now, the case rate in South Africa grossly underrepresents the infections, but the hospitalisations and deaths are accurately recorded. So this is the case. The deaths are going up a little bit in South Africa, but not very much. Still below the UK, still well below the United States, and we believe this is accurate. And of course, this is after over 4 weeks now of Omicron. And new daily confirmed COVID-19 deaths per million people in South Africa. Well, first wave, second wave, third wave, Omicron wave. So natural variant wave, South Africa, beta variant wave, delta variant wave, and now this Omicron wave with much, much lower numbers of deaths. Now, I've had an email from Brian who's explaining the testing situation in South Africa. And he does explain that tests are actually quite expensive. So it's about $14 just for an over-the-counter lateral flow test, and it's twice to 3 times that for a PCR test. So a lot of people are just using these cheap lateral flow tests. They are testing positive, but then that doesn't go onto the official statistics. So we know from Brian and from others in South Africa that the number of cases in South Africa is greatly underestimating the number of infections. So the Omicron is just rampant in South Africa now, but as we saw, despite very high numbers of infections, not accurately reflected in the cases, still getting relatively low numbers of hospitalisation. Now, this data that we've looked at from the UK and from Scotland will pad out in time, but so far it remains promising that we will be able to cope with this. There will be more hospitalisations, but we may well be over a very short period of time. So that looks like what's happening over the next few weeks, and thank you for watching.
If you want to lead something, start by saying, this is what I care about, this is what I want to do, and why I think you should care about it, and you should want to help.
Welcome to today's talk, Thursday the 23rd of December. Now, I've got some pretty interesting data on the spread of Omicron and the symptoms and the risk of hospitalisations with Omicron today. Just before we do that, we're keeping an eye on some critical information, and we're watching this on a daily basis. Well, I watch 2 or 3 times a day every time there's an update. So this is the
Hi, and welcome to today's episode of Piano TV. So about a couple weeks ago, they had a music festival here in town, and a lot of my students participated in it. And I was there basically every day of the week, and I decided to take copious amounts of notes and just kind of absorb all of the information that the adjudicator was giving these kids in order to find some commonalities and just bits of information that I could then pass on to you and share things that I thought were interesting. I love music festival because even if you do like so good, you like blow everyone away, the adjudicator is still going to find something for you to work on. Like for example, there was this kid who, the highest mark I saw was a 90 all festival long, and he played brilliantly, and even he got suggestions. So it's just, it kind of shows the kids that playing music is an eternal learning process, which is valuable to know as an adult as well. Anyway, let's get started. There are 4 main topics that we're going to cover in today's video. The first one is things related to the wrist and arm posture. Is probably one of the most talked about things on the festival week. And then we're going to kind of derail a little bit into staccatos. It's a short little category, but worth mentioning. Number 3 is interpretation and like how a piece is expressed. And then 4th is entertainment. So what we're going to do in each of these categories is talk about some important takeaways that I had from the week and kind of discuss finer points within each category. So pull up a chair if you're not sitting, or just keep doing what you're doing. And anyway, let's get started. So most of you already know that the tune of the piece, the melody, is the part that needs to come out louder and more clearly than the harmony. So a lot of the times that ends up being the left hand is the harmony, the left